Hello, and welcome to the Secrets to Plant-Based Living Summit, how to use food to have radiant health, mental clarity, and boundless energy. I'm your host, Sandra Cotto, and I've brought together 21 of the most influential doctors, athletes, authors, chefs, and coaches to help you understand what plant-based living looks like, what it can do for your health, and how you can live your life more vibrantly. And I'd like to welcome today's guest, Mark Reinfeld. Mark Reinfeld is the 2017 inductee into the Vegetarian Hall of Fame. He is a multi-award winning chef and author of 8 books. Did you guys hear that? 8 books, including the best-selling 30-minute vegan series and his latest book, Healing the Vegan Way, selected as the #1 book for vegans in 2016 by Philly.com. It's amazing. Mark has over 20 years of experience preparing creative vegan and raw cuisine. Since 2012, he has served as the executive chef for the North American Vegetarian Society Summerfest. He has offered consulting services for clients such as Google, Whole Foods, the Humane Society, Bon Appetit Management, Aramark, Sodexo, and more. Mark was the founding chef of the Blossoming Lotus restaurant, voted best restaurant in Kauai. Mark, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for inviting me, Sandra. It's an honor to be here.
Oh, no, absolutely. I knew that I had to have you on the show, being a very well-known chef and knowing your trade and really helping those who want to learn a little bit more about this lifestyle. I transitioned to a plant-based lifestyle about 4 years ago, and it completely changed my life. And it really started with more health reasons, but my journey has expanded so much more over that time with just being more, grateful and more of a conscious mind and gratitude towards the animals and the earth. And so I just wanted to go ahead and spread the word and help as many people try to understand this lifestyle. And then it really starts with our food, right? What we choose to put on our plate and nourish our bodies with, and it just goes on from there. So I'm excited to hear your story and for you to share with everybody what this lifestyle can do for them.
Cool.
So first of all, before I get into it, I noticed that, so you were the founding chef of the Blossoming Lotus restaurant in Kauai. Now, I was just in Portland, Oregon, and I don't know if you're affiliated with that restaurant, but it was also called the Blossoming Lotus. Is that an affiliation with you?
Yes, that was an offshoot of our Kauai restaurant.
Oh.
So we passed on to new owners a couple of years ago, but that was the origins of that were in the island of Kauai.
Wow, that's still a place I would love to get to. I have not yet been to Hawaii, so I'm sure it's beautiful.
So, well, being in Florida, you would connect with it. It's very the climate is pretty similar.
Yes. Anything tropical I love. So sounds great. Well, the food was absolutely delicious at the Blossoming Lotus restaurant in Oregon. So it was fantastic. But I was like, wait a minute. Oh my goodness. I wonder if you were affiliated with that. Okay. So my first question that I have for you is, tell us a little bit about your journey, a little bit more about what you do, how you got started on this plant-based lifestyle and into being a chef.
That's a great question. So it was actually in 1990, I was on a kibbutz in Israel, and I had, up to that point, I was pre-law. I graduated, eating pretty much anything. I graduated college and took a year off between college and law school, and I traveled through Europe. I was in Berlin when the wall opened up, went down through Czechoslovakia and what was then Yugoslavia, and then I was on a kibbutz in Israel. And during that time on the kibbutz, I had the opportunity to connect with animals in a way that I hadn't before. I grew up in New York and just never really had time to see what like a baby cow looked like or baby chicks. And so I became vegetarian during that trip and then went on to India and then Nepal. And I did the Mount Everest trek and was up at like 18,000 feet in the Himalayas. And suddenly law school started losing its appeal. And when I did go back for a semester, but then I reconnected with the love of cooking that I had as a child. And so when I moved out to San Diego and started working in a health food store, this was in the late 90s. So my love of cooking and my intro to vegetarian and then vegan occurred simultaneously. And back then I was just able to do a lot of experimenting in the kitchen. And then I branched off after a few years and started consulting and chef service called the Blossoming Lotus. It was in Malibu, California. And then just started doing more corporate consulting. And then when I went to Hawaii, Kauai, I went for a 2-week vacation and I wound up staying for about 8 years. So It was a long vacation. And that's when we started the Blossoming Lotus restaurant, and then getting into creating cookbooks, and then actually offering trainings and workshops. And now I have a plant-based chef certification program. So it's all kind of corresponded, love of cooking and desire to promote the plant-based lifestyle.
Wow, what a journey. So that was a very long vacation in Hawaii, 8 years, huh?
Yep. I'm still recovering now.
Wow. So you've done quite a bit. And you said you actually have a certification as well for people who want to learn about plant-based cooking and being.
Yeah. So I do these in-person trainings from 2 days up to 10 days. And they're deep immersions where we go into the ins and outs of vegan and raw food cuisine. And then I work with people who are just picking up a knife for the first time, all the way to like cordon bleu certified chefs who want to learn more about plant-based cuisine. And then also as a form of activism, which I look at all this as a way to help people regain their health and protect the environment, and also to create a more peaceful world that people who want to share the information with others. So I develop a teacher training program to help people, teach them how to like share the information in their community. And I do that in person, and also developing that online. So it's a combination of in-person and online training.
Okay, that's a nice combination to have, because sometimes a lot of programs are just online. So it's a good opportunity.
Yeah. So basically, wanting people to be able to do that hands-on. And that's where you could get you can move pretty fast when you have that one-on-one training.
Right. Fantastic. So, Mark, would you say, are you more raw vegan, or are you kind of a combination?
I go different. I was super into raw foods at one point. Actually, one of the books I wrote was The Idiot's Guide to Eating Raw. So I'm very familiar with that. I love showing people like the heavier comfort foods like shepherd's pie and lasagna and veggie burgers and nacho plates and things like that, all the way to more of the lighter raw foods. So getting into culturing and using the dehydrator, making your own plant-based milk. So I like doing the full spectrum.
Wow. Yeah, it's great, because a lot of people who, have an idea of maybe possibly transition, they can't get rid of some of those comfort foods, and it's very culturally driven, right? I mean, we're brought up with these foods, and as we're young, and, we eat whatever our parents have, provided for us. But I put my hats off to you and all of the creative chefs out there who really can get into the kitchen and get creative and recreate these foods for people to transition to.
Yeah, it's a big thing for me. There's a lot of transitional foods on the market now, and I call them transitional because in and of themselves, they may not be like the ultimate health food, like having like some, processed vegan butter or vegan mayonnaise isn't the same as like a shot of wheatgrass. But for people that are used to the flavor and texture and just that satiation that you get from animal products, we've come so far to be able to really perfectly replicate those feelings so that they can help people make this transition. So even just yesterday, they have a Beyond Meat burger bar here at the Whole Foods. So I just had one of those with like melted vegan cheese on it. And so you could definitely indulge and eat pretty much everything that you're accustomed to eating, but just, a much healthier version and, plant-based.
Yeah, that was actually going to be one of my questions that I had for you, was what was your take on some of these faux meats, for people who want to transition over? Because, you have the term vegan, you have the term whole food plant-based, and a lot of people sometimes get them confused. They go, well, what's the difference? Because you can be vegan and also eat lots of sugar and processed food, and you can be whole food plant-based. So what's your take on some of the faux meats and some of these, alternatives for people transitioning?
Well, I think they play a really important role. Like, I would encourage people not to that could be like a plateau for people. If like you love your burger and fries or your bratwurst or things like that, start weaving these products in, knowing that they're not like the ultimate health food. Like the ideal thing is to go more and more towards a whole foods plant-based diet where we're getting our meals just from as less processed foods as possible, nuts and seeds, grains, fresh veggies, fruits, herbs. I love using lots of herbs and spice blends. So you could get an amazing flavor without using those processed meats. And I don't recommend them as like ultimately healthy, but I love them. And I think they play a super important role in the whole, making this transition easy for people.
Right. Yeah. Especially like you said, people who are so used to eating a certain way and their palate is used to tasting that. So it's a good transition over. Okay. Excellent.
Definitely.
So as a longtime chef, do you still get asked the number one question that I know I get asked quite a bit when I say I'm plant-based or vegan is, where do you get your protein? What is your best response to that?
That's a great one. I teach these classes internationally, so I've had a lot of students ask the question and answer the question. And the best answer I heard was, we get our protein from the same place your protein gets its protein, which is the plant. So the cows are getting their protein from plants. And so that they're the origin of protein. And just to cut the conversation short, I usually refer people to veganbodybuilding.com. And just now it's just like, it's such a myth that we can't thrive on a plant-based diet, especially having our protein needs met. And I don't know if you've heard of this movie coming out called The Game Changers.
Yes, I have.
So I saw that in the Boulder Film Festival here, and it features like the guy who won the Guinness Book of World Records for being the strongest man is a vegan. The guy who ran the Appalachian Trail in the shortest length of time is a vegan. It had like special ops trainers, Olympic athletes. Like that's going to be like kind of an old joke, like the whole question around it. So that's a little bit of a short answer on that one.
Yeah, I love how your answer is telling them, well, where do the animals get their protein, right? They eat plants, right? And then we have to think about the strongest animals on earth. We have gorillas and rhinos, and they're all eating plants, right? So we're getting it the secondhand way through the animal versus getting it the most cleanest and purest way is through the plants, right? What Mother Nature intended.
Yep, exactly.
Great. Because I was going to ask you what you thought of the Beyond Burger and the Impossible Burger. Those are the really popular burgers now.
Yeah.
And it seems like everyone's getting them now. I think I just saw, one of the fast food chains is starting to use them now.
Yep. I was actually in the airport in, where was I? In Pittsburgh, Chicago, and they had a Beyond Burger at their TGI Fridays. So it's making its rounds. The bun, they didn't have vegan, so I had to have it on a plate, but at least it's a step in the right direction. And I've been involved in this for over 20 years, and it's like, it's so clear the trajectory it's taking. And the amount of people who are vegan are increasing dramatically, but the bigger leap is the group that I like to call the veg curious. And there are people that are they heard that it's important to eat more plants, but they're not sure how, and to do it in a way that's creative. And that group is exploding. So those are the people that I like connecting with. And that's where those transition products I think are really helpful.
Yeah, I agree with you as well. So what would be your number one tip for someone who wants to transition into this lifestyle, but they're really not quite sure, how do I go about it? Where do I start? What would be like your number one tip for them?
Well, that's great. There's I think a mindset change is the first big step to realize it's going to be, for some people, it's a journey. Some people can do it overnight, and just like to be gentle with yourself as you make these changes. There's no vegan police looking over your shoulder, unless it's in your own mind, but like just do the best you can. And so certain tips that I like to give is like getting creative with your salad. So start thinking of your salad as more of a bigger type of dish. So you could add like garbanzo beans or cooked quinoa or roasted and cubed tofu or tempeh or nuts and seeds. Experiment with different ways of cutting it, like maybe spiralizing or chopping it. You can just mix in different ingredients that you're not accustomed to. That's one tip. And then also this idea of doing like a superfood smoothie in the morning. So you could get a lot of your superfoods like get a big nutrient hit right at the beginning of the day. So adding things like hemp seeds or cacao or chia seeds, ground flax seeds into a smoothie that has, I like using an all-in-one mix and different green mixes. And so that gives you that boost. And then another tip is this idea of either purchasing or creating your own spice blends. So you can have like an Italian blend, Mexican, Ethiopian, Cajun, Moroccan. Then when you have these spice blends and you start, say, cooking a pot of beans, you could go from Ethiopian white beans to Mexican pinto to Italian garbanzo just by changing like your spice blends up. And it gives you a lot of creativity in the kitchen.
Oh, well, that sounds really good. A lot of different spice blends. Okay. I like that. I'm going to incorporate that as well. What's your take on oils? I know, there's a lot of, there are many experts who are like, no oil, absolutely no oil in the diet. What's your take on oils?
I think there's very persuasive evidence that those people with like serious heart conditions have benefited from eliminating processed oils and actually oils from even whole foods, like to correct their heart condition. Personally, I think, and then there's others who say like, well, just no processed oil. So instead of olive oil, eat olives. Instead of avocado oil, avocado. So it's not like a no fat diet. It's more just no processed oil. That has more of an appeal to me than like eliminating fats from our diet. And then I think for most people, a little bit of oil in moderation every now and then is okay also. So like, I think it really depends on the spectrum. And the 2 last cookbooks I did, I had the dilemma of, should we do it oil-free? Because a lot of the leading plant-based doctors are recommending that, but I still haven't, like, from Ayurvedic perspective, which is an ancient nutritional paradigm, like oil-free wouldn't be looked at as beneficial for a lot of people. It would be more looking at their individual constitution. So I shy away from like blanket recommendations, but at home, we do have some oil also, but I try not to like go overboard on it.
Right. I love how you mentioned Ayurveda, because I really love the Ayurveda as well. And that, everybody has a different dosha, not to get into, too much detail, but everybody's body is a little bit differently, and you have to see what works well for your body, right? I mean, I'm all for a plant-based diet. The more plants, more veggies, more fruits you can add into your diet, if you can't go all the way, is better for you. But it's about seeing how you feel, right? And how your body reacts to some of these different foods. And like you said, the oils, I love how you mentioned using olives, and avocados, which is the actual, fruit, versus the processed.
Yeah. Yep, I think it's all things in moderation, including moderation.
All right. One of the things that I noticed, when I went plant-based, I kind of went plant-based, I say by accident, but it was meant to be. A friend of mine asked me to do a 21-day raw vegan cleanse. And so I did the 21 days and just felt fantastic. And one of the things was that I lost weight. I lost 12 pounds. And it wasn't something that I was looking to do. I just, I lost a lot of the inflammation, a lot of the inflammation that I had. And so what I love about a whole food plant-based lifestyle, and I don't know if maybe you can add to this, people think of things as a diet. And the word diet is there's a beginning and there's an end, where a lifestyle is something you incorporate in your life. And being on a whole food plant-based diet, I feel I never really have to worry about my weight anymore. I mean, I may fluctuate a couple of pounds here and there because I will eat, processed foods on occasion. I try to eat whole foods, but I do like to have the burger every once in a while, or the Beyond Meat burger. But what would be your take on as far as losing the weight? And this is really a great lifestyle that you don't have to think about all the time. Oh my God, I got to get on the scale, and I'm eating all these different foods.
Yeah, I think that you've summed that up really well, like comparing like the idea of a diet and a lifestyle. And for me, it is definitely a lifestyle. And I think this, again, everyone's different, like people's metabolism is different for whatever reasons. And it's tricky to like generalize, but in general, like when you switch to like a whole food plant-based diet, I found, and I've worked with you know, a lot of students over the years that like you're less thinking about calorie counting and like you're kind of like, you know, the idea of like you crowd out the bad. So you
Right.
start introducing like your big salads, your smoothies, and then sooner or later you're find that you're eating healthier than not healthy. And then that, I think, naturally, and it's a common experience that people just attain their natural weight without the idea of dieting. It's just the lifestyle itself lends itself towards that. And again, there are exceptions to that, and a lot, you know, there's a chemistry involved, and in those cases, like looking at some of the higher fat content foods or other lifestyle factors like, you know, exercise or meditation or something like that could help people lose weight on a vegan diet if they needed that extra support.
Right, right. Excellent. Thank you. And so one of the things is mental clarity, and that's part of the title of my summit, because I noticed for myself going plant-based, it just opened up my mentality to so many. I looked at the world so much differently. I had more compassion towards animals. I myself became, had lots more gratitude and began a meditation practice. How what advice can you give to those about gaining this mental clarity on this lifestyle?
Yeah, that's definitely, it's another one of those benefits that come. And it's interesting you bring this topic up. We're just finishing the book that we're finishing up is called The Ultimate Age Defying Plan. And it's basically this idea of staying mentally sharp. It's in the title, staying mentally sharp and physically fit on a plant-based lifestyle. I think I'm doing pretty good for 80 years old, so I want to share my secrets with everyone. But I think to me, the foundation of it all is that your inner state of being. And so that like when we approach life with as much of a calm, you know, positive attitude and grateful. And I always mention that in my classes, like that's to leave your cares at the door when you get in the kitchen and just like allow yourself to be in the present moment and stay like mindful and cultivate gratitude and love. And like that comes into the food. So working with the food in this way, like, and for me, I realized like, you know, there are no animals harmed in the meals, and we're not like, I won't get graphic, but if you've been in a kitchen that's not plant-based, it's pretty gnarly what goes on in there. So like, we're not contributing to that. And that just, on a deeper level, it's like the peace we feel in our hearts is reflected outside of us, like in the choices that we make, I think. And so we have the opportunity, you know, we may not realize like if you start thinking about how did this food get here, and I like the idea of like choosing the path of nonviolence, that whatever decision we make, if we take the one where there's less violence involved, it'll lead us to a good place. And so I think it all ties in that with like the mental part.
Yeah, just living a more kinder lifestyle and just exuding more love, right, for what you do. And I love how you mentioned, you know, getting in the kitchen, leaving your cares out there and just being present in the moment, right, and being creative and putting love into your food. And, you know, one of the things, you know, that I tell some of my clients, as now I'm a plant-based, my second career now is a plant-based eating health coach.
Oh, nice.
Because I just love this lifestyle, and I really felt a passion for it and a calling to help those transition. It's just when you put love into anything that you do, it's going to come out great.
Right.
I think it's really important too, being on a plant-based diet, you know, learning to cook your food so that you know what's in your food, so that you know what you're getting. You can control the amount of salt or the sugar.
Right.
Whereas when you're out and about, you don't always know what you're getting. So, even if it's just something basic and simple, what would be a simple, quick and easy recipe that you can give people off the top of your head that's just simple and easy?
Okay, well, my go-to meal is what I like to call a monk bowl. And so with this, it's a grain, a green, and a protein. And this is something people can make in 20 to 30 minutes or less on, you know, it lends itself to like our busy lifestyles.
Right.
So basically with the green, and I like sharing this idea of what I call a template recipe, where you look at the underlying formula of a recipe. And that's what I show people in the classes. So we could do 5 recipes in the class, but they're actually learning hundreds and even thousands of recipes once you start looking at what the underlying formula of the recipe is. And so an example, and when you change each component, you create basically a new flavor profile. So with the monk bowl, it's the grains you rotate through, like different kinds of rice pasta, quinoa, millet, buckwheat, and just like, I like looking at that as like spinning wheels, like the prayer wheel, you know, use it, the Buddhists use, like each one is a component of the recipe. So the grain component, you rotate through that. The greens are any vegetable or combination of vegetables of your choosing, with an emphasis on lots of color and especially green. And those veggies could be raw, steamed, roasted, grilled, lightly sauteed, and different, could be part cooked, part raw. And then just keep rotating through that. And then for the protein, I rotate through tempeh, tofu, and then all the different beans and legumes. So there's a lot of variety in there. And so a quick meal would be take some quinoa and put it in a pot with water and start it cooking. If you have one of those tabletop toaster ovens with a tray in it, you could preheat it to like 400. Take a pot with water for a steamer basket and start steaming. And then take a piece of tofu or tempeh and put it in that tray with a little soy sauce and maybe some oil. Put that in the oven, cut up some veggies for steaming, and then within like 5 minutes, that all comes together. So you could do that in 20 minutes, and you could, you know, have some frozen veggies on hand. And to that, I top it with hemp oil or flax oil and nutritional yeast, which gives you the B12 and a nutty, cheesy flavor. And to me, that's like my go-to meal. And you get lots of different variety that way. And if you want to do the next level, is when you start adding in the sauces that you can either make or have store-bought. And then those spice blends come in when you're cooking those like beans and legumes.
It sounds so good. I'm ready to have some dinner now. So
Cool.
you said you call it the monk bowl, right?
Yeah, monk bowl. That was
That's your grains, your greens, and protein.
Correct. Yeah.
I love it. That's a great thing about cooking, is being creative, right? And just trying something. I love how you said you could just take a couple of different ingredients and then completely change up the bowl, right?
Yeah,
with
totally.
The sauces.
Yeah. So it lends itself to a lot of variety. So you could say, like, I had a monk bowl every day this week, but they can be completely different meals. And actually, with that idea, even a hummus wrap is a monk bowl, because the grain is the tortilla, the greens are the veggies, and the protein would be the hummus. So if you picture that, that's like what goes into like the satisfying meal.
Sounds great. Yeah. And even if you cook a little in advance, you know, if you have some rice left over, some quinoa left over, you make a nice big batch, and then every week it's just it'll be even quicker, right?
Yeah. And then since I wasn't a big fan of frozen veggies until we had a son, so now I realize I see the benefit of having, like, when you need those frozen veggies on hand, that they're still relatively high in nutrition, that you could cook them easily. So there's lots of little kitchen hacks you could do to make that an easy process. Right.
Make it convenient for yourself, not always having to have the fresh, you know, or somebody said, well, I buy it and then it goes bad. I said, well, you have to eat it too, but a good way is to buy frozen, because sometimes they're even a little fresher, right? Because it's picked at the peak of the season, frozen right away, and where sometimes our fruits and veggies are coming a long way before they get to us.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay. All right, great. So, Mark, there's a question that I've been asking all of my experts. It's just a fun question. If you were on a deserted island and you had the option of having one fruit and one veggie, what would that be for you? I know it's a tough question.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, I don't know, if it were only one food, I would say coconut. If I had to just pick one veggie, I like broccoli, I would say. And then fruits, I love like the tropical fruits. So maybe like cherimoya or jackfruit or something like that. But if it were just one, I would say coconut.
Coconut. Okay. Tell us about cherimoya. I've heard of it. I've seen it, but I have not myself. I don't think I've ever cooked with it. Or that's a fruit?
It's a tropical fruit. You could definitely get it there in Florida. It grows down there when it's in season. So it's like, just like it's a custardy type fruit. It's like in the same category as Adamoya. Living in Hawaii for as long as I did, like, there's so many amazing tropical fruits. Like, mango season. Pretty much every season has like the amazing variety.
Okay.
But
All
it's
right.
just a raw fruit that you, if you look, you'll find it where you are.
Okay, yeah, I know I've seen it before. Okay, so is it a white flesh inside? I know it's green on the
Yes.
outside, right?
Yeah, it has like a ribbed flesh, a ribbed skin, and like a white flesh, like
Okay.
yeah, off-white flesh.
All right,
And
I'm
actually, yeah,
definitely.
Jamaican lilikoi also would be another one. It's,
I
it's
know
tough
it's
to
so many
beat.
good. When I ask my experts, they're like, "Oh, this is a really hard question. There's too many
Yeah,
good fruits and veggies out there." All right, great. Well, Mark, thank you so much for sharing all of your information about cooking and putting things together and helping people transition to this plant-based lifestyle. You are offering an amazing free gift, which is called the Vegan Starter Kit. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
sure. It's something that my wife and I created. She's a vegan naturopathic doctor, and we have a wellness community called the Doctor and the Chef. And so we help people succeed on a plant-based lifestyle through, we have an online component, and we do seasonal wellness retreats. And so we put together this vegan starter kit to help people get started on the lifestyle. So there's some basic tips, some underlying philosophy, movie recommendations, some core recipes. I list some of these key template recipes that I mentioned. So there's like the ultimate salad recipe, the green smoothie, the monk
Mm.
bowl of soup, like things that really help people get started on the lifestyle.
Wow, that sounds great. It sounds like it's going to be a big help for a lot of people. Just easy go-to things. Thank
Yep.
you. Thank you so much for the generous free offer.
Cool. Well, thank you for having me on the show.
Yes, I'm so happy that you were here and able to share a bit of your story. And I hope that everybody who's watching and listening got a lot out of today's interview. Please share it with your friends. Tell anybody who you think might be interested in this lifestyle, who's kind of contemplating or curious, as Mark said, veg curious, right?
Yeah.
There's lots of really good information. Stay tuned. We have more experts that will be providing lots more information. Thank you again, Mark, for being
Thank you,
with us.
Sam.
And
Stay
I'll
safe.
say goodbye for now. We'll see you all soon.
Be well. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.